Seychelles may be known for its pristine beaches and lush landscapes, but behind the postcard-perfect scenery lies a rich and turbulent political history, comprising 115 islands in the Indian Ocean. This small archipelago has navigated colonization, coups, and democratic transformation since its independence in 1976. This is the story of how one of Africa's smallest nations transitioned from political instability to multi-party democracy marked by resilience, reform, and the will of its people. The islands were uninhabited until their first recorded landing in 1609 by the British East India Company, named after a French finance minister, Jean Moreau de Seychelles. The archipelago was claimed by France in the mid-18th century. French planters and their enslaved laborers began to settle in 1768. After the Napoleonic Wars, Britain took control in 1810, formalizing its rule in 1814 through the Treaty of Paris. Administered from Mauritius until 1903, Seychelles became a separate crown colony under British governance. Colonial life revolved around plantation agriculture, heavily dependent on enslaved Africans. Following abolition, the economy shifted to less labor-intensive crops like coconuts, vanilla, and cinnamon. Political engagement was minimal until 1948, when limited legislative elections were introduced. By the 1960s, in 1964, Seychelles witnessed the birth of its first political parties, the pro-business Seychelles Democratic Party, SDP, led by James Mancham, and the socialist-oriented Seychelles People's United Party, SPP, led by Franz Albert René. Their ideological divide would shape Seychelles' political destiny. Despite ideological differences, both parties cooperated under British oversight in the 1970s to push for self-governance. In 1975, Seychelles was granted internal self-government, and a coalition was formed with Mancham as president and René as prime minister. Full independence was achieved on June 29, 1976, marking Seychelles' entry into the Commonwealth of Nations. A coalition government was formed between President James Mancham, a pro-Western businessman, and Prime Minister Franz Albert René, a socialist with strong support among the working class. But the unity was short-lived. Just 1 year later, while Mancham was abroad, René's supporters staged a coup d'etat, installing him as president in 1977. A move René claimed was carried out without his prior knowledge, but which fundamentally reshaped the country's political trajectory. René quickly set about consolidating power. In 1979, he introduced a new constitution, officially turning Seychelles into a one-party socialist state under his Seychelles People's Progressive Front, SPPF. Opposition parties were banned, and dissent was stifled. Although the state emphasized social development and expanded access to education and healthcare, political freedoms were curtailed. Multiple coup attempts in the 1980s, including one in 1981 led by South African mercenaries, highlighted ongoing discontent. Economic hardship and international pressure eventually forced change. In 1991, René reversed course and announced the return of multi-party democracy. A new constitution was introduced. Multi-party elections resumed in 1993, and René was re-elected under the rebranded SPPF. He would go on to win again in 1998 and 2001, often facing opposition from Anglican priest Wavel Ramkalawan, who gradually built a loyal following. In 2004, after nearly 3 decades in power, René resigned and handed over the presidency to his vice president, James Michel. Michel sought to present a more democratic image of the ruling party, now renamed Parti Le Peuple. His early years were marked by efforts to liberalize the economy, modernize public infrastructure, and address Seychelles' mounting debt. A tsunami in late 2004 and piracy in surrounding waters by 2009 posed significant challenges. In 2008, Seychelles secured a 2-year $26 million rescue package from the IMF and later signed anti-piracy agreements with the EU and received drone support from the US. Despite growing international cooperation and infrastructure reforms, Michel's government drew criticism for limiting media freedom and political dissent. The 2006 and 2011 elections saw him re-elected, but by 2015, he won by just 193 votes against Ramkalawan, raising concerns about electoral integrity. In 2016, Seychelles made history. The opposition coalition, l'Union Démocratique Seychelles, LDS, led by Ramkalawan, won a majority in the National Assembly, ending the ruling party's 4-decade grip on power. Days after the election, Michel announced his resignation, paving the way for Vice President Danny Faure to take over. Faure's tenure faced mounting pressure for electoral reform and transparency. The LDS continued to consolidate power, riding a wave of public disillusionment with the United Seychelles, the latest rebrand of the ruling party. In 2020, that momentum culminated in a landmark victory. Wavel Ramkalawan won the presidency with 55% of the vote, marking the first peaceful transfer of power between opposing parties since independence. The LDS also secured a commanding majority in parliament. Today, under President Ramkalawan, Seychelles stands as a model of peaceful political transition in Africa, a testament to the resilience of its people and institutions. Despite this, challenges remain: economic vulnerabilities, environmental risks, and global market shocks continue to test the nation. Yet Seychelles' trajectory offers a compelling lesson. Even in a small island state, democratic accountability, reform, and perseverance can prevail.